Welcome back to the BulletHole podcast. I'm Lyle Cadell, the media manager here at the BulletHole, and I'm with our master gunsmith, Greg.
What's up, guys? I'm back.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
It has been a minute, man. Yep. So it's good to have you back. Hey, we're brought to you today by Custom Built Firearms Manufacturing. Of course, he is the, what do you like? The only two people really touch our guns, and that's Greg and one of his apprentices, if you will, and at Custom Built Firearms Manufacturing. And we have something that just came in and just became available, and that is our new patch. It's a PVC patch, really smoking hot. It even glows in the dark. Sweet. So for the first 5 folks that comment down below, if you're watching this on YouTube, this is the only way you can win this, right? You're watching this on YouTube. First 5 people that comment down in the comment section below and tell us whether you like an LPVO or a red dot on your AR, or maybe a regular full-length scope, or whatever you use. We'll just put it that way. Whatever you use on your rifle. First 5 people to comment down below, we'll get with you, and you'll receive a Custom Built Firearms Manufacturing PVC patch.
So the really cool part about these patches is the writing on it glows in the dark.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
You got to go to our IG page. Mm-hmm. See, I'm trying to string you out here, but you need to go to our IG page. Well, it's on Facebook too. Mm-hmm. And you'll see the glow in the dark function. So it is cool. We tried it out. We were like little kids. Had to go down in the dark and try it out.
Yep.
And the snake you can't tell it on here, probably as you're looking at this, but the snake is actually 3D. Mm-hmm. So it's cool stuff.
It's a cool part about those PVC patches is all 3D.
So today in this episode, we're going to talk about scopes. And many of you have bought brand new rifles, whether they be bolt or a regular AR or something or other, and maybe you're getting ready for hunting season, and you've come and you're like, man, I scopes. I need a new one on mine, or I need one. Period. Or a red dot. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to start at. So we're going to take like a 10,000 foot view of that today, and just kind of look over it at some of the options that you can get into when you get into whether it be a bolt gun, and we'll talk it through. But from maybe left to right here, first of all, we have a full, and we're a Vortex dealer, by the way. This is a Vortex scope. Vortex is a VIP warranty, great warranty. I've run Vortex for years, but this is what is that?
This is a Viper PST 3-15 with a 44 millimeter objective.
And that's been used on a hunt, actually. Jim's used that on a hunt.
Yeah, this is one of our demo scopes that we put on some of our rifles for shoots and stuff. So that's primarily what I grabbed, is stuff that we actually go out and use.
And that is MOA or...
so this one is a mil scope. Oh, I'm sorry. This is... Let me take a look here. Nope, this is going to be an MOA scope. So the reticles MOA, the adjustments are MOA. It's all MOA. So MOA stands for minute of angle. That is one measurement system that is used for distance shooting, or really any kind of shooting, but primarily for magnified optics, that sort of thing. Minute of angle is just over an inch at 100 yards, so you've got a little bit of math to do when you shoot past that. Like this scope, for example, to put things in perspective, this turret, both turrets I should say, are adjustable in quarter MOA increments. So at 100 yards, one click on here is approximately a quarter-inch adjustment, up, down, left, right, whichever way you're going. Same with the reticle. So this reticle through here has full minute and quarter minute increments on here. So that allows you to hold over and adjust through the reticle instead of turning your turrets in the same adjustments that the turrets are. So it's kind of nifty. Personally, I'm a mill guy. I like mill radian adjustments, but MOA works too. There are two different languages out there, so some of us speak one or the other. Some people do both if they do it enough.
And mill is a little bit more precise from my understanding.
So mill radians is a mathematical constant. So with MOA, if you notice, I was using the 100-yard increment when I was talking about our adjustments here. Well, when you go out to 200 yards, you're now talking about a half-inch adjustment for every click, so on and so forth. So everything gets magnified in a slightly different way. MOA kind of has a similar deal to it, but when you're using the reticle inside the scope, it's a little bit easier to figure out. It's a little bit less subjective to distance. So,
and I mean, we've got several different several different models of Vortex. We may have some loopholes still over there.
Yep, like we've got a couple of these left. I think.
Sure. But we do have a lot of loophole or a lot of Vortex over in the shop, and they are not all in MOA. Some are in mill or mill dot reticles. And now, can you explain to the folks the difference between a first focal plane and second focal plane that some of these are going to come in?
Yes. So in the simplest of terms, first focal plane, first off, is going to be a little bit pricier than second focal plane. Without getting into the difference in technology, for the end user, what you will see is first focal plane, the reticle is always a constant size in relation to the target. Now, sorry, I think I'm saying that
Backwards.
Slightly wrong.
Yeah.
It's always the same size regardless of magnification. So when you zoom in on a single focal plane or first focal plane sight, the reticle appears to get larger. Well, that's because you're magnifying not only the target, but you're also magnifying the reticle. And what that truly means is that the reticle is always accurate in relation to the target. Whereas second focal plane, when you change your magnification, the reticle through the scope always appears to be the same exact size. So it never gets smaller or larger. And what that essentially means is that with that scope, you have to be at a specific magnification level to have an accurate reticle in relation to the target. A lot of people say, well, why would that be a thing? To explain more or less the idea behind it is, number one, second focal plane sights are cheaper to produce, so that's one reason. Second reason would be is that a lot of shooters back in the day were doing a lot of bench rest shooting, more so than like PRS and some of the more modern long range sports. So they were shooting a set distance. Well, when you're shooting a set distance, you're going to shoot a set magnification level, and therefore you don't have to worry about shifting stuff around. Dope's still important because of weather factors.
That's true.
But,
that's true.
But at the same time, though, the optic, you're less worried about your reticle in relation to the target at varying distances. It's more set up for a specific distance. Whereas first focal plane, the whole idea there is that when you're shooting at an unknown distance or multiple distances, it allows you to dial a scope into all of those distances versus having a scope that's good at a set range. So that's kind of the idea there.
And most folks that probably going to come in, imagine we got crossfires, that are 3x9, just regular standard 3x9x40s that are second focal plane, and they're just set up for a deer hunting rifle, something like that. And you're not looking to go 500, 600, 700, 800 yards, 1,000 yards. But you just help build a gun for a guy. And I can't remember, that had a 50 or 56 millimeter objective.
It was a 56 millimeter. That was a first focal plane scope. With most shooting applications like hunting, for example, a second focal plane scope will do more than enough for you, simply because most shooters aren't going to try to take a deer out past 200 yards. A lot of us think it's not necessarily a humane thing if you're tracking past that. I'm not a big hunter, though, so your mileage may vary. It's just opinion. But yeah, with that whole thing, for most shooters, second focal plane's A-okay. None of us are going to knock you for running a second focal plane sight if it works for what you're trying to do. These are all just different golf clubs depending on what type of shooting we're doing.
Last year, I took my buck with an AR with a 62 grain pill at 125 yards with a it was actually a 3-12. Second focal plane scope. It worked super fine. I've taken another buck with, believe it or not, there might have been some divine intervention here, but with a red dot at 175 yards and smoked him. I went for the next shot, and it did go a little high, but so it can be done. But the next thing that you have there is what is really hot on the market. I know you have one on one of your rifles at least. Is an LPVO. And what does that stand for?
So LPVO is this acronym that's been thrown all over the place. It's low powered variable optic. And so what that means is this scope, you might notice it looks like half of this scope here, and it basically is. So most low power variable optics start at somewhere around 1 power and top out around 4 to 6 to 8 power. Like this guy right here, this is a Leupold VXR Patrol. This is a 1 1/4 to 4 power low powered variable optic, and the whole idea here is they're trying to encapsulate red dot-ish or close range features with some magnification all in one sight. And there's constantly kind of this battle where all the different manufacturers are coming out with power sights and all these different things that, they all work really well. I'm a huge fan of LPVOs and all that good stuff, but like the 1 power is usually like a 1.1 power. There's still a little bit of the eye box, and the eye box meaning when you look through the scope, you have to be directly behind the scope to get a clear picture.
And that's what I found to be difficult with the one that I had. I gave up actually was. And hey, please don't take because I gave it up. You have to give it up. Some people are fine with getting right on top of there and gearing in. I found that the eye relief was just was not good for me, and I like a lot of eye relief, and so it was hard. And then the eye box on mine. It was a 1 to 8, and man, when you ran anything out to 8, and I'm not gonna, blast who because I don't want to blast the company. But anyhow, when you got it out to 8 and out to distance, man, the eye box just really went tiny. So they're finicky, not finicky. What's the word? They're
you got to realize here's what I'd say about the LPVO game is you got to realize that you're trying to execute what we call the one size fits all. This is the fix all for everything you're trying to do, and in firearms, the more you try to do that, usually the less successful you are. However, all these different manufacturers have been developing new techniques to make it happen, and so things are getting better and better. It's just not quite perfected yet.
I will say the Vortex Strike Eagle or the Vortex Razor.
Yeah, the razors,
the high end razor.
I'm honestly, their 1 to 8s, 1 to 10s are awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not big on the Strike Eagle because of the eye box, but that's me being a snob. Same with some of the other ones out there, like this Leupold, for example. This one has a very, very finicky eye box for being a 1 1/4 to 4. It's a really nice scope, very good glass, but again, it's a little picky. The Night Force, their Attacker series, those are awesome. Probably the best low-powered variable optic I've seen yet is still the Elcan, their Spectre DR, which actually has 2 sets of lenses. So it's a 1 power or a 4 power, and you throw a lever. And when you're looking through the 1 power, it's a true 1 power. So it looks pretty much like a red dot. But it does have an objective lens, so there is an eye box, but it's huge. And then when you flip the lever, it's a true 4 power, so you get the best of both worlds. However, those scopes weigh about twice as much as your standard low power variable optic.
They're costly.
Heavy. Yeah, they're over $2,000.
Developed for the military.
Yep.
So
yep. Those are pretty much, peak performance for low-powered variable optics. But
the Razor, I do know that a 1-6, and I think that was a Razor series from Vortex. A friend of mine who's in special operations, they allow him to use that on his duty rifle.
So the Razor,
yeah,
they have been testing those. So,
and he's been using it for, I know, 3 years.
Yep.
And has now gone to the 1-10, and that's a 35 mil tube.
Yep, that's a big boy.
And so you have a lot of eye relief. It's just it's a tremendous. We can get that for you right here at the BulletHole, as a Vortex dealer. So if you're interested in something like that, hit us up. As far as an LPVO goes, I had the opportunity to sit behind one of them, but I don't have the coin to buy it. They had the guys had the coin to buy it.
See, my challenge though with the whole thing is still try to identify what you're doing with that rifle.
Yeah.
And then try to dial around it, because like the 1-10, fantastic scope, but if you're putting it on a 14.5 or 16-inch gun, like that is heavy. Whereas a 1-6 or 1-8 might better fit what you're trying to do.
Here's a 14.5.
Another thing we've identified too is that when you're actually shooting with those types of scopes, you don't necessarily need all that magnification. So from a military standpoint or a tactical standpoint, it's a force multiplier because you can see further.
That's
but not necessarily for shooting, because if you're putting just plinking ammo through it or 855 ammo, that ammo is not that accurate. So that scope is far more dialed in than your ammo will be unless you're shooting good 77 grain stuff. So that's one counter to the whole thing. We can put the awesome glass on, but will a rifle really do it?
So I mean, there are a lot of variables here. I know that we're not answering like specific questions, and getting dialed in on it. I know Vortex does a tremendous job too of answering those questions. One thing too, I wanted to go back to this parallax. I have a parallax adjustment on my 3-12, which does make a difference. And to get into parallax, it's like a scientific mud bog. Yeah. But just to kind of put it into simplistic terms, if you put your thumb out and you put it over, for instance, that object right there, and you move your head, now your thumb is no longer on it. It's how the reticle and how you move your eye across it, and how that parallax is adjusted. And it does make a difference.
So just to show you on this one, this is actually focus.
Oh, it is. Okay,
yes.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
So it was parallax adjustment.
Parallax is generally adjusted back here.
See, mine's on the side on my 3-12.
Well, you've got your objective, your diopter adjustment, and that helps with distance from the eye. However, the parallax itself, the shift that you get, that's something that's not technically correctable.
Well, have some of them will have them right here. Yeah, mine will have
I'm not familiar.
But it's a thing. We'll just put it that way. It's a thing. If you want to look up more about parallax, you can, and you can get into the minutia of parallax. And really, we were talking about earlier, for the regular guy that's going to go out to, say locally here to Mill Creek or one of the other ranges, you can get into it. But PRS people, precision rifle shooting folks, you're out there and you're probably listening to us going, these guys,
Yep.
these guys don't know what they're talking about.
I'm keeping it very simple. I got my old gun that I used to shoot some matches with here, so it's all set up completely differently, and yeah.
It truly is it's a challenge. But if you're coming in to the shop and you're looking for a good scope, and you're, hey man, I just want to go out and shoot out to 300, maybe 500 yards, or hey, I'm just going deer hunting and I'm doing that 200 yards in the end that I feel comfortable with. We've got everything that you need in the shop. Now let's move over, and this is an argument here a little bit between the LPVO and what he's got next to him there, and that's an MRO from Trigicon. Trigicon's a great company, and that's I can't remember is that a 3? I can't remember how big their dot is on the MRO. It might be just.
This is a 2.
2.
Yep. So my primary like work gun, class gun, that sort of thing, I shoot with an MRO. So I've got a lot of time on these sights. This is a 2 MOA dot on here. It has a bunch of different brightness settings. Out of the box, this is a lower 1/3 co-witness mount. So it's set up right from the get-go. This sight came out primarily to compete with like the Aimpoint Micro series type sights. And I just love it. The big thing I like about it is that the controls are right on the top of the sight, so they're not a pain to get to with either hand, and then the off setting is right in the middle of the setting. So if you turn this clockwise, it goes to your low light settings, and if you turn it counterclockwise, it goes to your daylight settings. So at a quick glance, you can just turn it whichever way, depending on what you're doing, and then it has, don't quote me on this, it's got like a 30 or 40,000 hour battery life on setting 4, which is the third highest daylight setting. Setting 4 is primarily what I shoot on anyway, so you can turn it on and leave it on if you want to for about a year, and you're good to go.
It's same as I run a Vortex Crossfire on mine, which we carry over in the shop too, and I've tested that, and I've had that thing on for probably now close to a year. I try to be because it's one of my home defense rifles, and so kind of be smart with changing the battery out, but I leave it on 5 or 6, whatever it is, and it has a dial too. I like dials, not buttons. However, the new Spark AR 2, is it?
That has buttons.
It has buttons. It's solar, and that thing is cool because it has, I think, over 50. It's over 50,000 hour battery life because it compensates by the solar panel on the top for the battery, and so it's really good optic. The Hollisons have got some of those features too.
SIG as well.
In the Romeo series. But here's the interesting part about these two segments of the arena. He's got a magnifier here, which is a 3-time magnifier.
This is the EOTech G30 magnifier. So the reason why we brought this over is we're talking about magnified optics here. So you've got your MRO or other like red dot sight, and you can mount a magnifier behind it. The EOTech magnifier series has more or less been voted by the industry as having the best glass out of any of the magnifiers out there. So even if you're not running an EOTech hollow sight in front of this is still kind of the way to go. With that being said, this gives you an interesting trade-off because now you've got 3-power magnification behind your MRO, and like this specific model has a standard just mount on it. It's quick detach, so it's got a little throw lever so you can take it off. However, there are a bunch of flip-to-side mounts available for these on the aftermarket, and basically what that allows you to do is it allows you to flip the magnifier out of the way so you can use either no power on the red dot, or you flip it behind the red dot, and now you've got 3 power. Now the issue that you run into there, though, is you've got a 2 MOA dot here, right? So when you magnify what you're looking at through this red dot sight, not only does the target get larger, the red dot gets larger too. So like for me, for example, this combo doesn't work out for me well right now because I have astigmatism, and I looked at this before we started the show and I was like, man, I need to get my eyes checked because it looks worse than it usually does. It doesn't look like a dot. It looks kind of like a squiggle when I magnify it, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
So with that being said, though, it's another set of golf clubs. You know, if you're not going to be shooting magnified very often, or you might need magnification to see a little bit further, but you're not planning on needing magnification all the time, this is also an option. You know, with the magnifier red dot thing, I would say if you lived on like a small farm or something like that, this would be an awesome setup for a defensive rifle, because, you know, if something goes bump in the night, the EOTech flips out of the way. EOTech magnifier can flip out of the way. However, if you're out on your farm and coyotes are all of a sudden popping up all over the place, you flip the magnifier back in, and now you've got 3 power on your AR without messing around.
Even within urban environment, I mean, if, you know, and we're not here to, you know, break out the tinfoil hat type of thing, but I mean, you know, if crap hits a fan type thing or whatever, you got your battle rifle, you know, what are you going to go with? A lot of guys, you know, think that way. I'm more of the opinion of the dot and magnifier option. Generally speaking, this is my experience, you know, for whatever it's worth. A dot will get you out to 200 pretty well.
So if I can,
but PID,
yes.
PID, you know, you want to do you know, positive identification. That's where I want to bring a magnifier in. And yeah, I did shoot a deer at 175 yards with a dot. However, would I have liked to have had that magnification behind it? Second, you know, thinking through it a second time, yeah, it would have been good. And 3 times magnification, we don't think of that as much, but it's clarity, and it gives you just. And when I was running an LPVO, I'd run it out to 3 or 4, and I was done. I didn't really need any more.
So one thing I'll say is you're dead on with the PID if you're talking about, you know, the SHTF type deal. You know, the magnifier will do that. A skilled shooter can use a red dot generally to 500 and 600 yards. You know,
skilled.
Yeah, you'll hear all the time. You know, for example, Marine Corps recruits have to shoot at 500 with irons. A red dot's far easier to shoot than irons. And you know, personally, I've shot 500 and 600 yards with a red dot, and it is an absolute breeze. A lot of people say, well, there's no magnification, so it must be harder. Not at all. You still have to know what your rifle's doing at that distance to make those hits, but the dot on this is very much like a crosshair on that. So the other part you were talking about with this combo being a little bit more fail-proof for you know, disaster type stuff is if you're not running magnification or you don't need it whatsoever, you can take it off and your zero still remains the same because your red dot is what is zeroed. So you don't have to worry about messing up your zero by subtracting weight off the gun. And then should you go back into a scenario where you need this potentially, you can put it back on and add weight back on the gun. So you do have that level of modularity too.
I also do like an etched reticle, which comes like in a Spitfire or something like that, you know. However, the Spitfire comes in, it's a 3-time, you know, optic.
And real quick for everybody, just to explain it, etched reticle means it's a laser etched reticle in the glass. So instead of there being a red dot that's reflected in some way onto a lens, there's light reflected onto an etching. And so like for those of us with astigmatism, they're super clear. Yeah. Unlike this right now where I've seen a little squiggle. Your eyes will do funny things if they're not perfect when it comes to red dot sights. And
it's you know, and it's a personal thing, you know, if guys want to stick, you know, whatever they want to stick on the rifle. You know, if you just bought a new AR here in the last year or so, or 6 months or however long, I would say, you know, and you're still of course, generally most guys walk out of this shop with a red dot. Maybe think about a magnified, a magnifier to put behind it if you want to get out the distance a little bit. Or, there's the LPVO.
Yep.
And then if you go yote hunting, I change mine out. When I go coyote hunting with my AR, it's zeroed to the round and everything. And I go to a 3-12 with 44, 3-12 by 44. So, and that's just because I want to get on that dog, but,
3-12 is a reasonable rate.
Yeah.
A lot of times these days we're seeing people buy 25 power scopes to shoot at 300 yards. And that's kind of crazy. Like on my PRS gun, this thing maxes out at 21. And that's for a lot further than 300 yards. The big balance of utilizing scopes correctly is learning field of view. So if you magnify too far, you're going to lose reference as to what you're looking at. And, if you're shooting at multiple targets, such as coyotes, prairie dogs, all kinds of stuff, disaster situation, you might need to be able to see more of what's going on than your one target that you're focusing on.
Very good
25 power is a little much. Now, if you're shooting at 1,000 yards, 25 power's not out of this world. But if you're shooting 500 yards, 12 power will do 500 easy.
Yeah.
Most of my distance shooting has been somewhere around like the 16 power mark. That way I can keep reference as to what I'm looking at and where the next target is. Like when I did PRS and all that good stuff, where am I transitioning to next? Can I see at least the rough direction of where that is while I'm looking at the target I'm engaging at that time?
And you bring up a good thing too with field of view, with the red dot. I took the AR through a course, a fire with an LPVO, and quite honestly, I don't know if we even got out to 25. It was kind of CQB type stuff, and I found it to be difficult. And that's just me. Throw a red dot on there, I'm good to go because I have both eyes open and I can transition from target to target. And when transitions, when you're doing that drill or whatever drill you're doing, I just found it so much easier for myself. But I don't know. Can you speak to that?
I feel like the red dot's faster.
Yeah.
But honestly, I know that it isn't necessarily faster, at least on a true 1 power, low power variable optic. And the reason why I say that is your variable optic is going to show you more of what you're doing than a red dot is. A red dot's going to kind of cover up all the little movements that we make as we're pointing rifle, whereas you're going to see that through your objective lens. And so it's going to feel like the rifle's moving more, but it's just because you're seeing more through the magnification or through the eye box. This isn't going to cause the rifle to move more than the red dot is.
And the heaviness, when I took it through that course too, the heaviness of the LPVO.
That does make a difference. Real quick, think about it this way. So if you look at a pistol with iron sights, when you're getting a sight picture with the iron sights and you're doing it correctly, that front sight generally looks like it's kind of floating midair, right? Well, you do the same thing with a laser attached, and you see the laser moving around all over the place, and you're like, man, am I really moving around that much? The front sight looks okay. Well, same thing's going on here. This is backed all the way out. This is like our front sight on our pistol where it just kind of floats, and then when we start putting that guy on there, that's showing us what we're really doing. So that's kind of what I found with it. And I ran a few range days exclusively with the low powered variable optic, and then I switched back to the red dot and back to the back and forth. And the one thing I'll tell you is my times didn't change.
Really?
Nor did my accuracy. No.
That's
not for me at least. My groups didn't open up. At distance they shrunk obviously with the LPVO, but there was no real shift overall. This does allow you to see further, though, so that's the big takeaway.
So there's a lot of options. There's a lot of details, of course, but we wanted to just kind of do a 10,000-foot view, flying over type of thing, and stuff that we do have in the shop. Again, Vortex, Holosun, Loophole, Trigicon, EOTech. Come by and see us. Check out what you need. He's got some things sitting over there though that are old school.
Yeah. So I brought a couple of flip up sights as well, just to kind of show the whole progression. Because in the shop, we'll have people say, well, why a red dot sight, compared to just flip up sights? And generally my answer is, well, both, because
absolutely.
something can go wrong with the red dot sight or vice versa. So, iron sights are generally going to be the slowest sighting system and potentially the least accurate, and part of that is because we have less accurate adjustments. So the clicks on your iron sights, depending on who made them, are generally not very fine clicks, so you can't necessarily get a really, really good zero. The other part is that you have to execute the exact same positioning of your face behind these sights every single time you shoot to get the same consistent accuracy. Whereas with a red dot, most of these are relatively parallax free, which means that if you can perceive the dot through the tube, that's where the projectile is going. Yeah. The other part is, and this is something that I thought was kind of interesting that I read about the other day. People say you're not lining anything up with a red dot sight. That's not entirely true, because with iron sights, you've got a rear peep sight, so you're looking through a hole and you're finding front post or blade, right? Well, you're still technically doing that with a red dot, but it's more forgiving. I still have the hole that I have to look through, and I have to find the post or the dot inside the sight. The big difference though is that the tube is much larger. So this guy is 30 millimeters, whereas this is maybe a quarter of an inch. So you got to look through a quarter of an inch hole versus a 30 millimeter hole. So you're still executing two things just like you are here. It's just a lot easier to do. It's a lot faster to do. So that would be the one large advantage, and then the other large advantage is zeroing. It's far easier to zero a red dot sight, and it's far more precise because the adjustments are more precise.
But having as backups, irons as backups, the electronics can fail.
Yep.
I always put irons on my ARs, for instance, man, if that dot goes down, and you don't have backups, you're pretty well screwed.
The big thing I like to say with any type of electronic sights is that they are only as good as the batteries you put in them. Yeah. Because some people will buy nice sights and then they go on Amazon and buy like a 50 pack of cheap 2032 batteries, and then they're like, man, the battery life isn't holding up the way they said it would. Well, buy your Energizer, Duracell, mainstream batteries for these types of sights. If something takes a 123A, stick to Surefire Streamlight batteries and you're good to go. Luckily, iron sights don't run out of batteries, so we don't have to worry about that. But again, there are some drawbacks to them. That's why these ones are folding, because I wanted to demonstrate that these are tried and true. They fold out of the way, and they're there when you need them. But again, we're adding weight to the gun, so do keep that in mind too. Yeah.
So there's a lot of considerations, like we said, to think about, but we've got what you need here at the BulletHole, and just want to skim over it. Again, the first 5 people that comment down below on YouTube, and whether it's you're telling us, hey, I use this, that, or the other thing on my rifle or whatever, first 5 people will get a hold of you and get you a patch for Custom Built Firearms Manufacturing, which, and if you're wondering, I didn't really actually tell them. Custom Built Firearms Manufacturing, here, owns the BulletHole, and we build OEM, our own ARs, line of ARs, and from an AR-9 all the way, we do have in process, we'll put it that way, an AR-10, but we sell a lot of AR-15s and AR-15 pistols, some in 300 blackout, of course, as well. and right out of our shop over here. But we also have a dealer network that encompasses 3 states, and we are also fielded by law enforcement here in the state of Kansas. And so that's you get a patch for Custom Built Firearms Manufacturing, and look us up on the Gram and Facebook and all that, and then look up BulletHole. Of course, the BulletHole podcast is also on Facebook and so in Instagram. But check us out wherever you might be on social media, and then the BulletHole. Go to thebullet.hole.com. And Greg does teach classes. You got some classes coming up. To see two this week.
So let's see here. Not this week. So I've got one this week. I've got a handgun marksmanship coaching clinic. Basically, I cap it at 4 people. It is absolutely nothing high speed. It's all about the fundamentals. So it's how to pick out a spot on the target and put your rounds there. The whole idea with this thing is that I cap it at 4 shooters. That way it's a very personal class, and we break down what you're doing right and wrong and build it back up. Keep in mind it's the fundamentals, so we're not necessarily shooting crazy drills or anything like that. It's learning how to properly shoot a handgun. So I'd consider it a class to take right after a basic pistol safety class, that type of thing.
Which you also have.
Yes, we do those almost every Wednesday. Not this Wednesday, but we'll be resuming every Wednesday after that. Coming soon, we'll be rolling out another class on Tuesdays as well. It's called Tactical Tuesdays. It's going to have a whole series of drills. Basically every Tuesday that we hold it, it will be a different series of drills. We're basically going to randomly string different drills together. It's not necessarily going to be a teaching class. It's going to be a, hey, show up and you have no idea what we might be putting you through that night kind of class. So it'll be level 0 to level 50 type drills. So that one's more of a let's see what you can do kind of class. So I'm super excited about that one because it's just going to be a ton of fun.
And we do have concealed carry classes for Kansas and Missouri that are taught by our lead instructor Brian Holmes, and then Luke teaches some classes as well. He's got a shotgun class coming up in September.
Brian also has a low light class coming up too.
That's right.
Yep.
Yes, he does. And so if you want to rule the night. So there's a lot going on. If you want to find out about those classes, go to thebullet.hole.com, scroll to the bottom of the page. It'll be training in classes. Click on that icon. It'll take you to a full list, and you can get signed up right there. Or you can come in and do it too. But we encourage you to just visit our website and get signed up for classes that'll help you out to become a better shooter. And even the basic gun handling and firearms course just gets folks that are maybe they've never been around guns in their entire life.
Yeah, the basic firearms class is a ton of fun. Basically, the idea of that class is it's a level 0 class, meaning that you can come in having never fired a gun, having fired a gun once, having just bought your first gun, if you're shopping for your first gun. We provide some rentals for you to try out as well in this class. And Luke and I co-teach it when there's enough people. Luke's been teaching it quite a bit lately because, summer and everything, people are traveling. So we've had a, lower turnout on it. But either way, when it's running full bore, we both teach it. And the biggest thing I always like to say about that class is there's no such thing as a dumb question in that class. That is the class to go to have all of the basic questions answered. In that class, we will not give you a hard time if you're asking which end the bullet comes out of. That's what that class is for. How to hold the gun, how to load it, how to safely operate it, range etiquette, things like that. That's the class that gives you all those answers if that's what you're looking for. Because, we're a limited number of people, and we're always welcoming more people in the Second Amendment community. So that's why we do stuff like this.
And to our Empower Her course, I don't want to forget that. That's going to be August 7th in the first session, August 21st for the second. If you want to look that up also and check that out, it's for ladies only. You can't go, Craig. Yeah, sorry. But anyhow, Brian and Abby teach that. But Brian Holmes, he does most of the instruction there, and so they go through mindset, they go through situational awareness, and then introducing ladies to guns and to other alternative means of self-defense. And he goes through really dynamic thought processes of how to think about yourself as not as prey, but as a truly as one that's going to be the victor, not the victim, in those classes. So, ladies, if you want to look at that, empower her. It's kind of spelled differently, but it's a good. I mean, Brian does a good job.
Yeah, that one is all encompassing. It's not just about shooting. It's about surviving.
It is.
That's the big one. It's about how to, like you said, be victorious in a self-defense scenario as a female, and how to avoid those situations to begin with. As we all like to say, we like playing with guns all day, but the best gunfight you can get into is the one that you don't have. So that class has a ton of knowledge about how to not get into a fight like that in the first place.
It is.
A lot about the differences between tasers, stun guns, OC, impact weapons, and firearms. Firearms are in there, but it's got the whole deal. How to carry a firearm as a female. There's a bunch of info in there because that's a constant argument. My girlfriend, she found that out the difficult way. Never ask a bunch of guys how to carry a gun if you're a female. That class though will tell you.
So
that's a good time.
There's a lot of stuff. First 5 people, by the way, in the comments on YouTube, get a patch from Custom Built Firearms. But we got a lot going on right here at the Bullet Hole. So check us out, bullethole.com, or on Facebook, or on Instagram, or on YouTube as you're watching us right now. And pass the word along. Hey, go check out the Bullet Hole. They got something going on down there. I don't know. And we're even doing some remodeling. I mean, there's just a lot going on. So right now, as we're talking and doing this podcast here in July of 2021. So hopefully some of that will be done. But maybe somebody's listening to this later on and they're like, what improvements? It's always been like this. Well, thank God, man. I'm telling you. Because we've had our owner has led in some really serious, great improvements that are being made, including a rifle range, which should be done.
Don't jinx it. We've been waiting long enough.
I know. It should be done.
It's
soon.
Almost there. The backstop's done. The ceiling baffles are done.
Lighting.
Yep, the lighting's good. Now they're working on the shooting stalls, and we're so close. Yeah. That's why I don't want you to jinx it, because it's been a process. So, and
y'all that keep asking me, I know that some of you get on. When's the rifle range gonna be? Hey, it's coming. It's coming. Yep. It's coming soon. So, as always, protect, compete, and learn. If I can say it right here at the Bullet Hole. And until next time, y'all take care. Have a good one.
Thank y'all.